What is up, everybody? Today we are going to be looking at Texas A&M, and they are intriguing for many reasons. One, you're returning your quarterback, you're returning your head coach, you have a very intriguing transfer portal haul, you return so much production on offense and on defense, and they were very successful a year ago. But with their success a year ago, there were also some big flaws. Marcel Reed turned the ball over in every game that they lost way too much, as well as the defense gave up explosive plays too often. And overall, towards the end of the season against good teams, they didn't necessarily look amazing. With that being said, they did finish the season 11-1, and they did make the college football playoffs. So first things first, Texas A&M, what are they returning? Well, obviously they're returning Marcel Reed. He looked incredible. I was all aboard his Heisman hype train about halfway through the year. Then obviously it fell off a cliff kind of at that South Carolina game. Texas wasn't amazing. But overall, I'm very happy with what they're returning on offense. They're also returning Mario Craver. They should be very good on offense. I think that's without question. My one worry on offense, though, is you do lose Colin Klein. I think Colin Klein was, in my opinion, a top 5, maybe a top 3 offensive coordinator in the entire country a year ago. How much will that hurt the offense? I think it's yet to be seen, and I'm not going to overreact too much in the offseason about it, but I certainly think there are questions there. Now, returning production on defense. Overall, 63%, good for 18th in the country. Looks amazing on paper. You lose your best, you're the guy who had the most sacks in Howell. You also lose your leading tackler. Right? Now, you have a second string tackler in Sanford who I think is going to be just as good. I don't think they're going to lose much production there. He's going to just get more reps and really step right into that role. And overall, I like Texas A&M's defense a ton. But with returning production means that the problems they had a year ago are still there, and we'll talk about if they address them in the portal here in a second. But I still worry, will Marcel Reed turn the ball over at bad times? Will the defense give up too many explosive plays? And to be honest, it was blown coverages a year ago. Like, there's a handful of plays that just stick out, particularly in the South Carolina game in the second quarter. They just gave up too many long touchdowns. And then in the Texas game, it was the similar story. They just blew coverages. That can't happen. That can't happen. But I don't know if it will next year, and we'll talk about it why with the transfer portal. So exactly with the portal. First thing I like, they went out and got an edge. They went out and got a tackle, right? You got to secure the line of scrimmage. And I don't have tons of questions about either side, but you do lose your leader in sacks from a year ago. I want to see that room get bolstered up a little bit, but there were two obviously huge gets. Ricky Gibson, first of all. And Isaiah Horton gets a lot of buzz because he's the wide receiver from Alabama, to be honest with you. I don't have the utmost of confidence in him because, to be honest with you, Alabama's wide receiver core a year ago was not loaded. It was not one of the vintage receiver cores where you're like, well, there's just 5 guys that are going to be top 2-round picks. Just wasn't the case. And to be honest with you, I don't know if Isaiah Horton is a guy that is a next level player. I don't think he's quite what KC was a year ago. Ricky Gibson, on the other hand, is a lockdown corner. I think he was one of the best corners in the transfer portal. I think he was one of the best gets that Texas A&M got. And there are some intriguing 3-stars as well. But Ricky Gibson, you want to talk about a guy who could prevent some of those explosive plays, prevent some of those blown coverages. He is absolutely going to be that guy. And when you look down the list, they still got some good secondary pieces that are 3-stars. And more importantly, guys that played a lot, like the guy from Colorado. And you also get some good bolstering to the defensive line, which, once again, not a huge question. But when you lose your top guy, there still is a question of like, okay, how much will this room produce next year? But overall, I really like what A&M did. So I love the transfer portal so much. I love the returning production. What are my worries for Texas A&M? Because I do have a couple. And it all comes down to, can they do the little things right? Because that was what was their Achilles heel a year ago, and it starts with turnovers. A fumble and 2 interceptions in a playoff game at home is not good enough. The 2 interceptions against Texas was not good enough. They lost the turnover battle in both of those games, and it cost them. It cost them big time. As well as earlier in the year, you saw it as well with the game against Auburn. Like, Marcel Reed just in some games just turned the ball over too much, and it allowed opportunities for other teams to stay in the game, which obviously allowed them opportunities to beat Texas A&M. Run game, I have a little bit of a question, but I think that will be taken care of. Their depth was good a year ago. Moss was good, but I don't think he was irreplaceable. I think they'll be fine at running back. And then on defense, it was the thing I brought up earlier. Blown coverage after blown coverage in big games. That can't happen. And South Carolina was my prime example. Yes, you got out of that game with a win. The only reason you were down is because Marcel Reed kept turning the ball over in the second quarter and you guys kept allowing explosive plays. That can't happen next year. Not with the schedule. And we'll get to the schedule here in a minute. And same thing with Texas. It was blown coverages. If they made Arch Manning play a game where he had to make the correct decision 85% of the time, they wouldn't have lost. But he didn't, because there were just a handful of plays. And I remember there was a tight end route where the Texas tight end just was streaking down the sideline wide open. That can't happen. Not if Texas A&M wants to make the college football playoffs or a national title run. Because that's the goal here, and it should be the goal. They're spending the money. They have a good enough coaching staff, in my opinion. They have good enough players. But they have to do the little things better next year. So, overall, how will Texas A&M do with the schedule that they got next year? So, at LSU, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, and Texas are, in my opinion, the 4 hardest games on this schedule. And I think it'd be very difficult to do any better than 2-2 against those teams. Because, first of all, you play 3 of them on the road, which is really, really tough. But there's also other really tough games on this schedule. We haven't even mentioned the fact that they play Tennessee. A Tennessee team with tons of questions, but if that defense and that quarterback's good, probably a top 15 team in the country. You also play at South Carolina. We talked about how South Carolina gave you tons of problems a year ago. And South Carolina has the talent to compete. They really do. It's just, will the coaching be good enough? And then you also have Arizona State in the non-conference, an Arizona State team that's remarkably hungry. I'm not personally very high on them, but I know a handful of people who are. And if that quarterback situation is good, Arizona as the state has the talent on the outside, and Kenny Dillingham's a really good coach. So right now the win total is at 8.5. I'm slightly underneath it. I got them at 8-4 right now, with the idea that they have too many games that I think will be one-possession games. And when you saw how Marcel Reed played down the stretch, turnovers killed him. Some defensive things killed him. The inexperience at offensive court, or not necessarily inexperience, but not having Colin Klein there is going to hurt because he was one of the best offense coordinators in the country. I think the offense will take a step back just because of that. You also lose your number 1 wide receiver and technically your number 1 running back. So although I love a lot of things about A&M, and I could see this team making the college football playoffs, and I could see them making a deep run as well, right now there's just a couple flaws that I think are too big, and right now it's landing them at 8-4 for me. But let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you guys are new. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like and check out the other videos I've made on other SEC teams. All the support really does mean a ton, guys. Peace out and have a good night.